Hello, I'm Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights Consulting and Radio Vermont. I want to call your attention to the European model here. This is the 12Z European that was issued on Sunday morning. And just looking at the upper level pattern here, this is the 500 millibar chart. It's a little hard to see. I don't know if you can see this cursor. This is kind of experimental. But if you see my cursor moving around there, Vermont is located right here. This is the eastern seaboard, and of course down into Florida. And then over here is Mexico, and then the west coast of the United States. We have generally kind of a upper level trough, kind of elongated, and this is kind of the leftovers over here of the remnants of Sandy, which is pushed offshore and southeast of, or even east of Nova Scotia or over toward Newfoundland. But currently, right now, what we're looking at is a situation where we have a shortwave trough that's going to be dropping into the long mean wave position, which is here, and we'll see that action here. As you can see, there's one shortwave trough that's moving in. It looks like in the Middle Atlantic states, crossing parts of Kentucky, southern Ohio, West Virginia. And that's kind of the lead impulse that starts the action. And then the main thing to watch is back over here, and you'll see the second shortwave trough that's really going to do the carving. And eventually it's going to cause what we call a negative tilt. What is a negative tilt? A negative tilt is basically when the axis of the trough is more centered northwest, southeast. Neutral is straight up and down, and then positive tilt is like this, or southwest northeast. Keep an eye on this vorticity area. This is kind of stretched out like taffy, and that's how it looks. This is a lifting mechanism. Areas in the purple are a sort of sinking motion in the atmosphere of subsidence and associated with higher pressure at the surface, for example. Keep an eye on how this drops in, and you'll see now it's a favorable position. It looks like over the northern part of Florida, the Florida Panhandle, southern Georgia. And this is going to spawn an area of low pressure, a fairly strong one, that is then going to spin up the coast. Looks like it undergoes what we call bombogenesis off the Carolinas and really maxes out its intensities before it gets to Virginia Beach, and then begins to head north and east and hug the coast, producing some pretty strong winds, some pretty heavy rains, and pretty classic nor'easter fashion. And then it basically begins to weaken as it tries to head in the Gulf of Maine, but then kind of falls apart and heads actually to the south and east. In the upper levels of the atmosphere, you can see this, how this is what we call digging action. And once again, we have that northwest-southeast tilt. And then you take a look and you see in the upper levels, the storm system basically cuts off, it slows down, and eventually then it weakens and moves out to sea, and actually to the south and east as a fairly large ridge of higher pressure takes shape. And this is being activated upstream over the west coast, where another very strong storm is going to be moving in from the Gulf of Alaska. This is going to supply a lot of cold air to the western states and probably produce some pretty excessive snows there. But taking a look at this, we're going to take a look at this at the level showing precipitation and mean sea level. And we'll start it out currently with today. This is how it would look right now. You're seeing the shortwave trough beginning to develop here in the vicinity of the center of the country. You keep an eye on that. It'll spin up an area of low pressure right there. And it's now off the Florida coast, off the Carolinas. It's undergoing intensification as a coastal nor'easter. And then this works its way north. You can see the negative tilt trough. This 5400 line that's a little more solid, a little more stands out. Anything to the left of that generally is all snow. Anything to the right of that is rain. And in this particular area, we're looking at probably a rain-snow mix, and I'll get into that in a second. But you can see as it tracks up to the north, off Cape Cod, and then it kind of falls apart. And if anything, it even starts to head a little bit to the south and east as a ridge of higher pressure builds in. Let's take a look at the next level here. We will look at 925 millibars, which shows moisture. And again, starting out, here's the upper level system that's going to be dropping in. There it goes. Coastal low. Now, this purple here is indicative of dry air and again associated with an area of higher pressure. It's going to bring us a really nice day on election day. This is valid 1 o'clock on Tuesday. So good sections of the northeast United States and then back into the west, no issues. There's that frontal system right here across the parts of the upper Midwest, the western Great Lakes. And then, of course, we have our area of low pressure over the southeast states, including parts of Florida, probably going to produce some pretty good thunderstorm activity here. Keep an eye on that off the Florida coast. You'll see it track up the coast. It undergoes bombogenesis. Pretty tight pressure gradient right there off the Carolinas, the Outer Banks, probably affecting places like the Albemarle, Pamlico Sound, as well as the Chesapeake Bay. And this will continue to produce some pretty strong winds right into the areas of New Jersey. Heads up, New Jersey, you're looking at another wind event here, although not as strong as what we just saw with Sandy. But this after Sandy storm is something to behold. Now that area of low pressure tracks off the coast of Cape Cod and continues off to the south and east and weakens. It looks like it's not really going to make it quite into the Gulf of Maine, but it does favor some snow. And kind of looking at that here in a second. Now up here we can see the 850 millibar level. This shows temperatures. Anything in the purple you can kind of see is below the freezing line, which is 0 degrees centigrade or 32 degrees Celsius. And you can see right here that it's pretty cold up in the eastern portions of Canada. Again, here's Florida, here's the Carolinas, Vermont, and we'll run these here very quickly. You can kind of see that cold air dropping in on Monday. Monday afternoon looks pretty cold, even despite the fact we're going to have a lot of sunshine. But then we have our area of low pressure beginning to take place off the Carolina coast. Notice this sort of marginal blue, lighter blue colors. Temperature is basically aloft. Again, this is about the top of Mount Mansfield, so you get the idea here. This is roughly 32, 36, 39 degrees Fahrenheit. So these are temperatures that will not support snow, but you get into this blue line here, that is at 32 degrees. So keep an eye on that. As the storm moves up, kind of a marginal snow event, you notice that a lot of warm air gets pushed in. So just a little bit above freezing at 850 millibars, indicating this will probably start out as kind of a rain-snow mix. It's going to be very elevation oriented. But notice here you get this kind of banding that shows a little bit colder conditions. Thus, Vermont, we're looking at an elevation snow, some wet snow at that, and you want to get your snow tires on, kind of see what this is all about right there. And then as the low heads off to the south and east. And quick check. Okay, this is going to depict snowfall. These areas in purple kind of indicate on the graphic here, shows you that basically you don't want to get into an inch or over until you get into the sort of lighter blue colors here. Keeping that in mind, let me run the graphic here. This is on Monday, no issues there. We're looking at, let's see, this would be Tuesday night into Wednesday. No problems there. Start getting into the day on Wednesday. Well, lo and behold, there's some snow in the interior sections of Virginia, the Delmarva area. It looks like even the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. could be affected. This spreads up in the interior sections of northern New Jersey. Stays pretty much inland, though. Watch it. This is going to be our snow. It looks like it's going to be happening. This is valid 9Z. On Thursday morning, that would be at 4 a.m. So at 4 a.m., it's starting to spread into Vermont, and you can see the wave kind of crashes and moves on through what we call the deformation zone. And again, we're looking at probably somewhere between 2 and 4 inches falling there. We get into, it looks like late in the day, a little bit of upslope action right here across the northern Green Mountains. That would be valid time. We're talking Thursday night, about 1 o'clock in the morning. And then the storm basically lifts out and dies down as we get into Friday. Looks like Friday afternoon, everything's all over with. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights Consult.